Ciao, everyone, and welcome to this very first episode of Voices of Italy Beyond la Dolce Vita. Wow, it feels really strange to finally start. I've been thinking about this podcast for so long now, and I'm incredibly excited. I really think there was no other possible way to start this podcast than talking about Italian identity and citizenship because the whole point why this show even exists is that I really wanted to talk about Italy in terms of identity beyond the stereotypes because I've noticed that there's really a lot out there in terms of content regarding Italy that doesn't address Italians, it's addressing other nationalities. So I've noticed that there's a lot of interest, a lot of curiosities, but there's a lot of stereotypes out there. So I really wanted to start with talking about Italian identity, what being Italian really means. And I'm going to do so with a pretty controversial topic, at least in Italy right now, which is citizenship and citizenship laws. Essentially, we have two groups of people in Italy right now people that like the current system and essentially are big fans of citizenship by bloodline. So either you get it from your parents or crazy from your ancestors, but in any case, it works with blood. Other people, including myself, think that this should change and that it's finally time to acknowledge that we don't all look the same, and that's fine. This country is changing, so our laws should change with us. And there's a paradox talking about this topic in Italy because, yeah, you're technically allowed to get Italian citizenship pretty easily if your grandparents were Italians. But if you're born and raised in Italy, by foreign citizens, well, in that case, it's much, much, much more difficult. And this is not just about identity. This is not just about wanting to be morally good to the new generations. This is about missed opportunities for growth, both economical and in terms of how our society works to introduce innovation. And our current laws do not allow for that to happen. So I really hope you'll enjoy this first episode and stay with me to hear more about the problems of the current laws and my opinion about it and a little bit of my experience in this regard. Italy is one of the most iconic countries in the world. But what does Italy mean to the world? What does it mean to you?
Buongiorno.
Pizza,
Ciao Bella.
Michelangelo.
spaghetti,
Mafia.
Dolce Vita.
My name is Alessia, I'm Italian, and this is Voices of Italy, the podcast that peels back the layers of the Instagram perfect Italy to reveal everyday stories of authentic, surprising, and messy Italian life. So, the reason why I really wanted to start with this topic with Italian identity and the debate about the citizenship laws, it's because I really believe that Italian identity is quite interesting to observe. I've always found it really peculiar on my side. That's because us Italians are definitely a country of, proud traditions. We really love our food. We're super proud of it. We easily say that it's the best in the world. I've heard so many people that are not at all patriotic just saying, yes, but in terms of food, we are the best, the absolute best. No other country has a better cuisine than ours. So we're super proud of that. We're super proud of our art and all the history that is related to it. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, the Italian Renaissance, it's something that, wow, we know it's studied in the entire world. Also, we're super proud of it. Our history, our language, our dialects, there's a lot of things that Italians are super proud of. However, on the other side, us Italians, we also tend to be very pessimistic and very, how can I say, critical of our country on a lot of other aspects, including bureaucracy, corruption, our government system. There's a lot of things that I swear probably 90% of Italians would only have a negative or critical opinion of. And that is also no matter how inherently patriotic people are. There are some things that we really tend to complain a lot about, to moan, and most Italians are very unhappy of. And that's already a huge paradox to look at. But this contradiction sort of made me think also how really think of ourselves sometimes as Italians as this fixed picture of people with certain traditions. We talk in a certain way. We have a certain kind of way of acting. We're so warm and we're so cordial, or at least that's how we're known for. We're romantic, we're passionate, and we are humble. And, we have this crystallized idea of Italian identity. And I think it has led to a big part of the population forgetting that this country is not still in time. It's changing. The way this country looks like, it's changing. And there are a lot of things that haven't changed with us. One of the most impactful ones, I really believe, it's our citizenship laws, because the principle that they are based on right now, it's commonly called as jus sanguinis. Essentially, it's citizenship based on bloodline. If your parents or your ancestors are Italians, that's what makes you Italian, essentially. Um, and the thing is that lately we have been seeing, I think, even in our daily life, more occurrences of non-Italians. They come all the way here from other continents and they get the citizenship. They spend here a few months to run the bureaucracy, the paperwork, and then they get the citizenship. That I feel like has become more common. It's mainly people from Latin America, I want to say, because there's so many big communities of Italians, second, third, fourth generations Italians over there. And this is because our current laws, as I was saying, they're based on bloodline. So even if you've never been in Italy, you don't speak Italian, you don't know anything about our culture, our literature, our dialects, nothing at all, you're not integrated in the country, you can still quite easily get the citizenship through your ancestors if you can prove that your ancestors were Italian citizens. And this is quite crazy because citizenship is not a little thing. People tend to take it quite for granted, but you can only vote because your citizenship. There are a lot of day-to-day perks that you probably are enjoying and you don't realize you have. And this is also, I'm not even talking about right now feel of belonging, something like that with your country. Some people can consider that secondary, but on a practical level, it's a big deal. It's sort of frustrating to see that there are millions of kids in Italy that are born here, or they have been here since they were little babies, but they're growing up here, they're growing as Italians in all ways, and still they cannot have the citizenship because their parents are not Italian citizens themselves. So it's really crazy because we're leaving them out for no reason at all. These kids, they speak like us, they have the same school background, they listen to our songs, they watch our TV, they grow up with an Italian mentality, but still we make their life impossible for them to get something that they would have the right to have. And this is a big problem, not only because, as I was saying, there are a lot of really practical consequences for Italy, but um, already we're telling them, you're not like us, I'm sorry, you may speak like me, you have my same mentality, same background, same upbringing, but you're not Italian, I'm sorry, for because of how you look, I don't know. But okay, even if you don't care about that stuff, because I always try to get everybody's perspectives in an argument. Let's say we want to be very brutally realistic and we don't care how these people feel. All right, but let's try to think about it from a really more pragmatic point of view. There's millions of these people in this country, and integrating them doesn't really mean making them some sort of gift. Integrate someone, it means they live stably in a country, they pay taxes, they're really part of the life of a country with the pros and cons, with rights and also duties. So you're just making them work better within a mechanism. And also, something that I don't know how many people, how many not Italians listening to this will know this, but Italy has a very dangerous problem with natality. We don't make babies, guys. We are aging. Our country is dangerously aging and doesn't really look like things are going to go much better because young Italians are not making babies. The economy is really unstable, so a lot of us are like, I can barely pay my rent, dude. And we don't have a lot of people emigrating in the country already in adult age to become productive part of society. We don't really have that. We're not a very appealing country in terms of work. So we could certainly benefit from integrating really in our society millions of young people because we're not going to get them from anywhere else. And there are a million of statistics that you can read. They will tell you that this is the winning formula for a stagnating country like Italy. So really, even if you want to look at it just from a purely pragmatical point of view, you just want the good thing for your country. Well, this is the good thing for Italy. This is it. And I want to go back a little bit to the point of view of talking about how these people are feeling. Not because I want to be a podcast about people's feeling, but I think we are underestimating what it feels like to be born in a country where you feel deeply unwanted. I'm not even referring to extreme manifestations of racism or xenophobia. I'm really talking about everything that you have to go through when you don't have citizenship. And you have to do so since when you're a kid, you look at your parents and doing the same thing is really draining. It's really frustrating and makes you feel like the country that you're living in is telling you, why don't you just leave? It would be easier. And I can testify how really frustrating it is from a personal experience, actually, that was not direct experience, but I had to see a little bit closer how it works for people that live in Italy regularly, legally, and because I was helping my boyfriend. He's American and he's in here for study reasons, essentially, but we're talking about a short term permit to stay here. And already in the past few years, what we had to do to stay here, the bureaucracy, how neglected the process is, it's really shocking. Italians listening know that bureaucracy in Italy, it's something, it looks like a torture from hell. The way bureaucracy and public administration is designed in Italy, it's obsolete, it's really old, it's terrifying. So take this in a language that you barely understand or you don't understand at all. And even if you do, I can assure you it's very often very complicated for us natives as well. I'm not exaggerating, and I will try to give you this practical example just because it's one of those things that I probably cannot describe well enough to make you understand how frustrating and depressing it is. I leave out the whole pre-Italy part, the application part, and when you have to prepare your documents for having the permission to even entry. Already that would be a story in itself, but we would need 3 different episodes. Essentially, once you're in Italy, they usually give you an appointment no matter what kind of permit you have. If you're not a citizen, you have to regularly renew. So you're always dealing with this stuff unless you have the citizenship. That's really no other way around it. So we were there for a study permit, but there were so many other people that were there for other kinds of study, family reasons, work reasons. There's obviously many. But what is shocking here is the complete lack of organization and of a system around this. They send you to this sort of police station called questura, where you're supposed to have your request processed and either approved or rejected, to then have another appointment to go get your visa. The new one or renewed one, doesn't matter. But when we get there, already it feels, I don't know, like a prison camp or something like that. There was a huge amount of people, like I think around a block long or something like that. All these people lined up outside the building, which in itself looks like some sort of abandoned, I don't know, factory, just 4 walls. And there's so many people waiting outside. And we were already super early on our appointment because if you're Italian, you know that that's how you gotta do. We waited there I'm not kidding, around 8 hours. We were there on an appointment, but there was no way that you can go there and just expect to be going in at your appointment time. It's just impossible. It's just a system designed to fail. They know that they give you an appointment that is essentially fake, and then it's just in your interest to go there as early as humanly possible, as your life allows you to line up from even before the office is open. And that's literally what happens. There's every single day of opening, there's a huge line of people, families, elderlies, babies, kids. There's obviously entire families there because people need to take time off if they're working or take their kids with them. It's already very demanding to go. But when you think that you have to go there, and if you want to have any hope to go in the day of your appointment, you have to line up since 5 or 6 a.m. It depends. And this is something that you know that you have to do regularly, at least every couple of years, if you're not a citizen. Imagine doing that when you're born and raised in a country, and majority of people that you know, that you go to school with, or you go to work with, or people you know, that just because their parents were already Italians, they don't have to go through all of that. Tell me how that doesn't make you feel different and unwanted. And this is not even the worst part, honestly. It's really the way these people are treated. I was there, I was Italian. I didn't really have, obviously, that sense of intimidation or scare that other people there will have because it's about their life. And I thought I could be helpful in the case of my boyfriend to a little bit mediate sometimes with the officers that were there. But the way we were all treated is shocking. Always treated as we were just annoying bugs that were infesting the building. And I'm really not kidding. The way they were talking to us, their tone, their way of really not even bothering giving you explanations, just bossing you around from a corner to the other of this street, not caring that what you're doing is literally something that you need to sustain your life in that country. I promise you that it's already very depressing to go through this kind of thing for someone like me. Imagine when your life depends on it. And you have to do this every couple of years if you're lucky, every year if you have a more standard type of visa. So, and the fractures that this is creating in our population is really, really huge. And we're probably not giving it enough attention. Even though, going on a more positive note, I think things are naturally changing. If it doesn't happen, I believe from a bureaucratic point of view, from a government point of view, it happens naturally in society. So it's become now really common to just see the most popular influencers on social media in Italy and see that not all faces look, traditionally Italians, at least, and that society is changing and integration is happening naturally. That's encouraging to see. I think that also has some power, and it is having some power in influencing people, or at least in having new generations get used to the idea that the fact that we are Italians doesn't mean that we have some sort of pure pure race and we're all going to look the same for the rest of eternity. We've never looked the same before. The Italian in sense of race doesn't exist. We're so mixed at cultural and DNA level that it's impossible to even just get some sort of heritage that is unitary. We come from so many different backgrounds, from the Greeks, the Arabs, North Europe. There's a huge mix in our DNA already as it is. So I really don't know what we're trying to protect here in terms of patriotism or whatever. I really think it's important to remind this to people that behave as if welcoming new citizens sort of takes something away from us. This is always been in our DNA, changing, mixing. So many different populations have been in Italy because of our geographic position. You're already too late for that. I'm sorry. Integrating these people is now only a benefit for us, other than the right thing to do. Okay, but but this is it. And also, even the more recent sort of Italian excellence stereotype that we're trying to protect. In a way, we're sort of faking it, I think. For example, what comes to my mind is fashion. We considered really the kings of fashions, and as if we are again this super excellency, and we can completely just claim all the credit for the industry. So many of those big brands that made a name for Italy in the field of fashion are not even Italian anymore. They've been sold to other people, other companies from other countries. It's not exactly how it used to be. And same for other industries like cinema, for example. Unfortunately, Italy is not on top of the game how it used to be 1 or 2 generations ago. And this is not to say that Italy has nothing anymore to be proud of, to call excellent. It's just that nobody's taking that away from us just because we're also changing from other perspectives. I think it's just silly to see it in this way. And instead of talking about new generations of Italians having to deserve the right to be called Italians on paper, well, maybe we should start seeing what we are doing as a country to deserve the prestige that we are expecting from the world, to deserve this excellency that we always talk about, because we have a lot of nice things that we are taking from the past, from previous successes that have involved our country before. But what are we doing now? What are we doing to deserve Italy to be on top of the world anymore? I think this is more what I was trying to say with this episode. I think there's a lot of good things to look at, and a lot of changes also that are still coming. For example, a referendum proposal that is trying to make things a little tiny bit more reasonable when it comes to getting the citizenship. The law is not proposing to change nothing really in a spectacular way. They're simply proposing to reduce the residency years that are requested to even apply for the citizenship. But all the other requirements remain the same. That's why, I mean, it's just trying to make it a little bit more reasonable. The referendum has been recently approved also by our Supreme Court. So definitely it's going to happen. And hopefully it's going to lead to some change in this regard. Thank you so much. All for listening to this very first episode. For sure, there's going to be more about this topic in other episodes later on, because we're going to see what happens with this referendum, if it even happens in the sense of, in order to be valid, 50% of people need to vote. So that's already a challenge. And we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if there's any other update on this topic that I want to tell you about. I'm definitely going to do more episodes in this regard. Otherwise, tell me what your opinion is. Tell me how it works in your country if you're not Italian. And if you're Italian, tell me if you knew any of this, or what do you think about it. And if you're a wannabe Italian with any possible background, also let me know about your experience. You can find me at Voices of Italy on Instagram. So I'm waiting for you in the messages. Thank you, everyone, and have a good one. Before ending this episode, I wanted to give you just a little recommendation if you like the topic of national identity, migration, and you're into Italian movies. I suggest you to watch Io Capitano from the director Matteo Garrone. It's a quite intense film about the sense of belonging and identity and the migration experience. Really, really a good one. Have a good watch.